Okay, let's get to the second part of the paper. All right, believe me, the rest of this isn't going to take that long. I'm sorry. The first part I kind of went a little. I have that tendency to kind of go a little ranting, but the second part isn't going to take very long at all. Okay, it's the spreading of the story, the proliferation of the story. All right, how this thing gets you know through the to the masses. All right, now I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on this section because if you think about it, most of you have grown up in a world where there is something going viral meant something entirely different than it does today, right? Okay, you're well aware of how the internet and the media can make a sensation out of pretty much anything. I mean, let's face it. Everyone thinks they can be a YouTube star today. I've actually, I think, thank God this year, the one good part about this year is we didn't have to do those end of the year senior projects where they had to tell you what they were going to do. They had to pick a topic and do this senior project. And a lot of people would talk about what they're going to do in for life. And of course, being a YouTube star or a TikTok star is like right up there. I really am glad I don't have to watch those. So that's the one positive thing. If nothing else positive comes out of coronavirus, this will be it. So it's no surprise to you that the internet, having grown up in this, swum in it. Swum, is that a word? Swam. What's the past tense? Swimmed, swum, swoom. I gotta delete this one. Okay, so it's no surprise to you guys that the internet's this like incredibly powerful tool for transmitting this vehicle for transmitting and exaggerating information. And so I don't really need to talk a whole lot about this. Like I said, years ago, there was no internet. Okay, when I first started teaching, the internet was not non-existent. Okay, and so it mostly spread. If you looked at those the videos I've shown you, it spread through email. I'm sorry, through emails, through mailers, like actually physical groups that you would belong to and get something in the mail over. Breast implants was like that. EMFs, same thing. They belong to this alliance or they belong to these clubs. Well, now it's so much easier. You don't have to wait weeks to get something in the mail. You post your crap online and it's right there. It's out there for the world to see. And then somebody else posts their crap back. And, it's all garbage. So proliferation is so easy today. And so much more easy than it was in the past that, most of us don't have to really talk about that part of it. So I've already wasted 3 minutes on it. Let's go on to the last step. All right, so the last segment of the paper on defense. And I always like this one because over the years, I've seen this personally. The way people defend their actions. As a teacher for, 30 some years, this is exactly how you respond. All right, I have my list of people over here. Let's take a look at who I want to pick on. Claudia. I haven't picked on Claudia in a while. Claudia. So let's just say I was, in class or we are taking a test, and Claudia was cheating on the test. Now, I picked Claudia because I know she would never, ever, ever cheat. So, but let's just say I called on Claudia. I said, Claudia, stop looking at, she says, Gianna's. Stop looking at Gianna's paper. What would her first response be? I'm not looking at her paper. I'm not cheating. But I just saw you look at the paper. You put your head over there and you look down at her paper and then you look back at your own. I was just seeing how, what the date was. I was just seeing where you wanted us to put the answers. I wasn't cheating. Claudia, you wrote the same exact answer as Gianna. You just don't like me. You hate me. That's the reason you're doing this. Claudia, you're being ridiculous. It's like, no, you're being ridiculous. You hate me. I'm going to the office. Okay, go ahead. Then Claudia walks out of the classroom and goes to the office. And The next day, her parents come in and we talk, and we, settle the whole thing. Now, how does that illustrate the five, actually four of the five, defense mechanisms that people use in the middle of one of these scare stories? Well, it's funny, but it illustrates it really well. The first way that people defend their scare story, which they're invested in, and you're invested in something anytime you have cognitive dissonance that's going to tell you that, hey, I can't change my mind now. I'm too invested in this. It has to be right. So anytime that happens, you're going to defend it. So how are you going to defend it? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to deny it, like Claudia did. She says, I didn't do that. And then if I show you empirical evidence as to why you did, you'll say, you just don't like me. You'll attack the messenger. That's number two. Okay. After that, if that doesn't work, like, if I keep pushing it, which by the way, I don't do a lot of this anymore. And when I was younger, I did. When I was a younger teacher, I used to, actually think that, I'm always right and the kids are always wrong. And so you kind of push things too far. And so you learned as you went. I mellowed over the years. You think you're mellow? I know, but yeah, I've mellowed over the years. So I had a lot of experience of this in my lifetime. So after that, you attack. You just hate me. It's you who's the jerk here. So I say, well, but you've got the exact same answers as well. I was just looking at the date. I wasn't looking at. So you propose new theories. What else happened? I wasn't really looking at the answers. I was just looking at the date, or I wanted to see where to write the answer down. Finally, what happens? Oh, I'm going to tell the office, or I'm going to call my mommy, and they're going to come in and talk. So that's, you get the courts involved, or you get the politicians involved. So there you have it. Now, the last one, the only one that's not there is the claim to conspiracy. It's hard to do that in high school, but, and of course I see these exact same, tactics used in all the videos we've been seeing, on EMFs and, breast implants and the Gulf War syndrome. And of course, if you look hard enough, I'm sure you'll find the same things in the COVID-19 thing. Immediately, the first defense is going to be, you're wrong. Everybody on the other side that's saying something different than me is just plain wrong. And then as they show, information and data that says, no, we're not quite that wrong. We got points here. You say, no, you're just bought off by the conservative media. You're a Trump supporter or you're an Obama supporter, whatever it is. There's a reason for what you think, and it's a political reason, or it's a you attack the messenger. I've always been against this, by the way. You may remember when I showed you the videos on by Al Gore on Inconvenient Truth. And I specifically said, you'll often hear people complain about, and you'll see memes online and even, just arguments online about how Al Gore is a hypocrite. Al Gore lives in a mansion. Al Gore's carbon footprint's like 400 times bigger than the state of Rhode Island. Whatever. Stupid things like that. And then it's not true, but if it were all true, it still wouldn't make the point about whether global warming is happening or not. It's not a good tactic to just attack the messenger. Okay? The messenger could be a jerk. I could be a jerk. But I could also be catching Claudia cheating. She's not, by the way. I'm just saying. But I could be. And it's not an argument to say that I'm an idiot or I'm a jerk. Or that's called an ad hominem attack. You'll see that in the fallacies that I've posted for you as well. And I've given you the sheet for that. So what happens as things kind of like don't go your way? You know what you do. You start like claiming, new theories. Like, oh, I wasn't really doing this. I was doing that. Now, in the videos we saw on EMFs and breast implants and Gulf War syndrome, this took the shape of proposing new theories about the disease. So what were some of the symptoms of the disease? When it came to the breast implants, they became ever more diffuse and ever changing. So it wasn't just that breast implants caused a specific connective tissue disease or lupus, but rather they started adding everything onto chronic fatigue syndrome, aching joints. Pretty much, they kept changing the subject. What else could it, they kept adding things onto there. They said the same thing with the Gulf War syndrome. It's too bad you didn't get to see that movie. It was a very good one. That did it more than any of the other ones, although EMFs did it as well. In the Gulf War syndrome, at first it was about their claim was that Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons against the troops, and that's why they were having all these problems. And then as those kind of theories went away, they started saying, well, no, maybe it was the depleted uranium shells that they used, or maybe it was the vaccines that they had to take, or maybe it was the insecticides that they used, and it just kept coming. It's more and more things kept being added to the list of possible causes of Gulf War syndrome, and that made it very difficult to defend because every time you shoot one down, there'd be another one on the horizon. So how is that affecting, or how is that being represented by the coronavirus? Well, it's funny because I've noticed this a lot, and on all channels. It wasn't just conservative or liberal media doing this. Every channel did it, and there's a good reason I want to say at the end why they did. All right, every channel kept adding things on while this was developing. It kept adding symptoms on and changing the symptoms. And why did they do that? To scare you. Okay. There's two reasons why. One was to scare you. The other one was we really didn't know. But in the beginning, I think you guys all remember, in the very beginning, there were three things that they told you to watch out for to see if you had COVID-19. High fever, a dry cough, and shortness of breath. And those have been pretty consistent throughout this whole thing. All right, and we weren't the first country to get it, so we kind of knew that. But sure enough, within a few weeks of the pandemic, within a few weeks of this becoming a huge, huge story, things kept changing. And on every channel you saw it. You saw it. You remember it. After a few weeks into this, pretty soon it was, oh wait, there's been some cases that had stomach problems. We think maybe it's digestive problems that are the first symptom. And then other people say, well, wait, there's a lot of people who were now hospitalized who didn't have a fever in the beginning. And then there was COVID toes. Remember COVID toes? Where your toes turn blue, and it's because of circulation problems. And now there is a new possible almost Kawasaki-like syndrome of children, where dozens of kids in New York City have this disease and possibly could be dying, and also were diagnosed at some time with COVID-19. Well, I have no idea, by the way, which of these will turn out to actually be legitimate symptoms of the disease and which won't. But what was the ultimate goal of that? If you think about it from a media perspective, why they would want to do this, why do we want to propose all these new theories? To keep you tuned in and to keep you afraid. All right, as soon as they came up with the very first one, I remember, and this was like at least a month and a half ago, that it could be digestive problems. I think to myself, you realize every single person right now, as allergy season's coming along, who gets a dry cough or gets itchy eyes or a sore throat is going to think they have COVID-19. Now you've just added an entire new category, so that everyone who has an upset stomach from eating bad chicken is going to now think they have COVID-19. And that's what it does. Okay, it scares you. Now, some of you are looking at this saying to yourself, yeah, but what if it's true? Well, first of all, we're in the middle of this, and I can't say that it's not true. All right, I can't say that what are the exact symptoms of COVID-19, and can they be that varied? All right, I don't know. All right, but the problem is when you do this, when you scare people about this stuff, and you become scared senseless, and you start doing stupid things. You start thinking you have a disease that you don't have, and that just makes you tune in more. It's why the media does it, okay? It's why they do these things. It's why the internet does it. So you get more clickbait, okay? It's kind of like, think about if you're in a haunted house, okay? If you're in a haunted house, well, I'm not saying there really are haunted houses, but you're in a house at night and it's dark and you're scared. Every noise, everything you hear becomes ominous, becomes scary. All right? That's what's happening in the middle of a pandemic. You're already scared. And then they throw all of these things out at you so that every single thing that happens now makes you think you have COVID-19. makes you scared even more. So you're going to tune in to the nightly news, and you're going to surf the internet even more than you already were. All right, it is a positive feedback response. It's a snowball effect, and these are the methods that they use to keep it going. All right, you just keep changing the story, proposing new theories, so you keep everybody scared all the time. All right. So that's how I think it's related a little bit. Now, and by the way, this is not to say that I know what the actual symptoms are. And it's also not to say that, unlike in the EMF ones and the breast implants, the question was whether or not breast implants cause these diseases, or EMFs or the Gulf War syndrome was caused by any particular stimulus. No, I'm not saying that. The virus is a virus. It's not a hoax. Okay, but there is. If you don't think you're being manipulated by fear in this scenario, if you don't think that they're using these same tactics, okay, to defend keeping you in your house for the next 18 months, so you can watch even more television and surf even more of the internet and buy even more things online from Jeff Bezos. All right, if you don't think that's going on, all right, at least from the higher ups who are realize. I'm not a conspiracy theorist saying there's a whole bunch of guys with mustaches in the back room, getting together and planning this whole thing out. They're just using this opportunity. Never let a good crisis go to waste, the old saying goes. I've used a lot of adages in these videos. All right, and that's exactly what everybody's doing in this case. The media is doing it. Amazon, Google, Facebook, they're all doing it. The longer they keep you scared, the more the money they're making. Okay? Now, again, some people are going to say, well, that makes you a conspiracy theorist by definition. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist to think that people will take advantage of any situation, however tragic. Okay, you saw when this first came out how the FDA had to shoot down and prosecute like literally thousands of people selling fake cures for COVID-19. Right? People are bad. There are a lot of bad people out there who will take advantage of this situation. And you need to, it's hard in the middle of it to tell what exactly should I be afraid of. Because now I'm being told everything is a symptom of COVID-19 and I don't know what to think and I'm so scared, And that's what my point is for this whole anatomy of a scare story. So then you go to, I want my mommy to come in, and we'll get somebody else involved that I could tell half the story to, and they can come in not knowing the whole story and try to defend me. And that's the equivalent of the courts getting involved and the government getting involved. The government, they're not specialists in these areas for the most part. They're not specialists they're not epidemiologists. They're not specialists in viruses. They're not specialists in EMFs or any of the stuff that we've talked about. And yet they're being asked to weigh in on this. Well, it's not fair really to them. Of course, they don't mind because, they want to weigh in and they want to have their face on TV. And so, of course, they do. But their opinions are kind of useless. All right, same as your mother coming in or your daddy coming in and defending you is useless. He wasn't in the classroom. He didn't see what you did. And so they come in and they muddy the waters, and eventually things usually get just thrown out. Hey, Mr. Allen, just relax. Don't worry about it. Or, hey, Claudia, we all have to live together. And that's how it usually ends. Okay? But for scare stories like this, it shouldn't end like that. It shouldn't end with, oh, well, everybody's right and nobody's wrong and we just all got to get along. All right? There is a right answer to these problems and there is a wrong answer. And if we're doing the wrong thing, people will be harmed. They will be killed. Now, some of the people watching me right now are probably saying to themselves, yeah, you're right. If you're wrong, people are going to die. And I agree. If I'm wrong, people are going to die. If I say back to those same people, if I'm wrong and you're right, more people can die. They won't admit that. I'll admit it. I know I can't. I may not be right. I may not be right about global warming. I've told you what I think about that, and I've shown you both sides. You remember this, for the very first entire period that we talked about global warming, I only showed you Al Gore's side. I did not even commentate on it. I didn't make any fun of it. I didn't, detract from it in any way. I showed you like 5 or 6 clips of his videos, not edited, specifically directly from his movie. And then the next day, I started to take it apart and talk about why some of the things he said were exaggerated or just plain wrong. But I can admit that if I'm wrong about global warming, I could be. I'm not saying that, there's no chance of that happening. And I've said that every single day I taught it to you. I know that. But the other side can't do that. The other side can never do that. All they can do is say that if you're wrong, you're evil, you're Hitler, you're killing people. But and I can't be wrong. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking to themselves that I'm only on the side of saving people. And they never understand about the precautionary principle and unintended consequences. You may have all the best intentions in the world, but we all know the old adage about best intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's the problem. I'm not arguing that people on the internet who are, telling you if you're not wearing a mask, you're a child molester, are bad people. I'm saying that they are misinformed and they are wrong. I think, they're wrong about this. However, if they're right and I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit that. They will not admit that. It's not going to happen. You'll never see it on the other side. Okay? And the thing is, well, most of these scare stories, they've mostly turned out to be the people who are like, with their hair on fire, running around, screaming, the sky is falling, Chicken Little. Generally, in almost every single one of those cases, it hasn't turned out to be as bad as they thought. Now, I'm not just banking on that, okay? I've actually done a little bit of research on this, and I kind of have seen these other stories, and I'm kind of applying my same, logic to it. However, for the most part, these people have generally been wrong, and then they just turn around and they go to the next one. They just ignore the fact that they were wrong on that one, and they just go on to the next. So, anyway, those are the 5 defense mechanisms. The only one, like I said, that really didn't illustrate with that analogy is the conspiracy or the cover-up. But that was the last part of the Gulf War syndrome. It was a government conspiracy. The breast implants, it was Dow Chemical and buying signs. And the same thing's true with the EMFs. They said it was the power industry, the electrical industry doing this. Covering it all up. You saw that on the video, or on the graphic I just had up there. So, that basically ends the anatomy of the scare. It was pretty long, sorry. But, it's the last time you had to listen to me, so. I have one last farewell I want to give you in a second, but I'll probably have to, record that separately.